Welcome back to another episode of Let's Play 1001 Games. I'm your host, Gaming Jay, and I am slow but not gone. Guys, I know the production of videos has slowed down on the channel recently, but it's just been a busy life. Oh, man. I swear, I got COVID 3-4 weeks ago, maybe even longer, and I've had just this lingering, persistent cough. You probably heard it in some of the videos. But anyway, yes, I'm very busy these days with many responsibilities and stuff like that in my life, but I'm still dedicated to the channel, just maybe a little slower at putting stuff up than I used to be, but hopefully you guys are still tuning in. Today, we got Gyruss, or Gyruss? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, actually, but we'll call it Gyruss, I guess. It's one of the games. It's an old arcade game, and the thing I like about these bad boys is you can slam in a few quarters, have some fun with it in 20 minutes, and boom, baby, you got an episode. So that's what we're going to do. Konami, 1983. Konami did a lot of, we're dead already. I thought I could keep twirling up the whole side. Hold on here. Oh, you can. You just got to, I see, like, keep rotating. All right. I thought it was hold left or right to, like, rotate, but when you get sort of halfway up, you have to press up and then left. It's one of those games. I feel like in a modern game, just holding left would make you rotate, around the whole thing. But again, once I'm here, if I press right, I don't go right anymore. I have to press up. And then once I'm here, I got to press left. So it's, yeah, just a slightly different control scheme to get used to. I mean, I played a lot of old NES games. I'll get used to it. But it's weird. It feels like my craft kind of gets stuck. Again, because I think just modern control schemes have trained me holding right would be enough. I should keep going, you know? Oh my god. Okay, I'm doing horrible at this so far. First impressions, by the way, it feels like Galaxian or whatever, only in, not 3D, but like a tube. You know, like, I was going to say a Mobius strip, but that's an infinite single-sided strip, which is double-sided, actually. Just kind of mind-bending when you really think about it. A Mobius strip. Haven't thought about that in a while. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? Is those, like, impossible objects. Yes, objects that are too cool to exist. Now, impossible objects, like the MC Escher stairs and stuff, which are just literally impossible, or like those optical illusions, where it looks like you've got 3 tubes, but it's really like a weird F shape. Hard to describe visual illusions, but anyway, take my word for it. There are visual illusions out there. God, I cannot talk today. Where was I going with this? Oh, a Mobius strip is an actual real device which really exists in the real world. It seems like it shouldn't. It seems like it should be one of them impossible objects that are too cool to exist. But no, indeed, it does exist, which is kind of more cool, actually, when you think about it. It'd be like walking into, like, a basement room and finding the actual MC Escher stairs, and you're like, holy shit, this is real? You know, like the stairs from, like, Labyrinth, where, like, you know, all the dimensions are, like, crisscrossed and stuff. I've been doing a lot of work on game dev recently, lots of coding, and I will say one thing that, like it's weird. The more coding you do, the more when you play other games, you're just like looking for things to steal, emulate, or yeah, honor, homage, we'll call it. But one thing that I find really impressive, even to this day, is like when you have fonts that are like nicely shaded. Like, look at that. Just look at that font, that bonus. It's like dark at the top, light at the bottom. Gives it this nice sort of like feel to it. Like the font has some grit to it. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I added a little font feature like that to Metal Mercs not that long ago, which is actually based off the fonts that you see in Contra 3, the Alien Wars, because I was playing that, and I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, hey, they're doing cool stuff with fonts. I should do something like that. But, yeah, it's these little touches that you see out there that I think help make games awesome. It's one of those things, like sometimes, like this font little touch-up, it's like you don't see it in a lot of modern games. It's like some modern games, it's like a font is just a font and the developers didn't even think about it, and so it's just like a plain, like they picked a nice color. You know, they didn't pick a bad color, but it's like it's a nice font and a nice color, but it's just flat. And it's sort of like you could add something to it, and many do. But anyway, I don't know why I'm ragging on other developers. But all right, focusing on Gyruss here. You guys don't want to hear my life story. We could talk more about Mobius strips if you guys are so inclined. I don't know how you guys feel about them. I know famously there's a joke in Futurama about Mobius strips. They do there's like a race on a Mobius strip. I think they say something like it's either the first or the infinite lap. Something like that potentially. I probably got the joke totally wrong, but there's some kind of Mobius strip joke in Futurama. Also, speaking of Futurama, here's a fun fact I didn't know about it. So I always knew that Futurama had some like really sciencey, nerdy jokes, and I always really enjoyed that. Obviously, Futurama was a great show. In fact, I think it is a good show. Is it still airing? They're still making new seasons somehow. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think it's done. It might not be. But in any case, I found out not too long ago that it's something like either the two creators or most of the writers have like PhDs on that show. And I'm like, that tracks. That makes sense. Like PhDs in like physics, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting career path to start as a physicist. And you're like, you know what I need to get into is like television comedy writing. That's where the real science is happening, you know, the science of comedy. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool actually. Futurama definitely sort of elevated science-y humor. I feel like shows like Rick and Morty and stuff, which I love too, you might not have them if you didn't have like Futurama paving the way. I still get a kick out of the like I think the first season of Futurama I've obviously watched the most. It's also the most nostalgic for me. I remember when Futurama was first coming out. We're on a huge tangent here, guys, but we're playing a space game, so I argue it's related. So we're still on topic. But I think I remember watching the first few episodes of Futurama. I watched the premiere. I remember that. The first episode that was premiering, I watched that on TV live, as everyone did back in the day. And I remember being just so-so about it. But then I had a friend who at the time was really big into Napster and whatever came afterwards, like Nutella and LimeWire and stuff. And he would like download TV show episodes. And he downloaded the first couple episodes of Futurama. So there's the Moon episode, which is great. Has some really great one-liners. I think my favorite one is... you know, when they're going through like the museum of, you know, ancient astronauts, and the future's got it all wrong. And they have the honeymooners, and he's like, one of these days, Alice, bang, zoom, straight to the moon. And they, you know, they play it off like he really had a dream of going to the moon. And Lilo's like, wow, the early astronauts were so fat. Fry's just like, he wasn't an astronaut, he was a TV comedian. And he was just using space travel as a metaphor for beating his wife. Like, that is dark and hilarious at the same time. And I think the Mars episode I really enjoyed as well, because I was getting ready to go to university myself when it aired, so, you know, I was kind of university age, but I love when Fry goes into that class. The professor's like, welcome to the class. Many of you will not pass. Look to your left, then to your right, then in 9 other directions. One of you will fail this course. It's like a 1 in 11 chance. Anyway, when you explain the joke, there is no joke. So hopefully you guys are laughing. If you have a favorite joke, by the way, from Futurama, or just a favorite nerdy joke from any TV show or movie in general, let me know. There's so many good ones out there. I know we've scratched the surface. Let's reminisce together a bit about your favorite, like, science or nerd joke. But in any case, all right, on to Gyruss here. So Konami 1983. You guys have been watching me play as I ramble inanely about whatever happens to come to my mind. Very similar to Galaxian. It basically is sort of like the Galaxian format. Or was it Galaxian that... I always get them confused. There's so many. There's like Galaga, Galaxian. I know there's Space Invaders, which kind of like set this all off, but this is obviously like a descendant of Space Invaders. But whereas like Galaxian and Galaga are more like Space Invaders, where there's like, you know, kind of a row of bad guys attacking you and stuff, but you're still along the bottom the whole time. This one, they've sort of rotated the space so that the bad guys are always in the center, and they're coming out in a radial direction, and you have to fly around the edges of a circle to defend against them. So very, very interesting. It like both is and isn't very similar to Galaxian and Galaga. Like it is adding a new dimension. It feels like a game that's like struggling to get into the third dimension. Like it really wants to be 3D, but we're not quite there yet in terms of technology and programming and stuff. So it's like still kind of hanging out in the second dimension, but it really is trying not to. It's really trying to push its way into that third dimension. Boom. All right, we made it to Neptune, baby. It is nice though. Like you gotta imagine if you were a kid growing up in the 80s, like gradually getting introduced to more dimensions so that it could gradually sink in. I wonder if anyone who, because there's some people who watch the channel who are older than me who, like when I was a kid, like I was a kid, like I was born in the early 80s. So the heyday of arcades was like 5. So I'm not going out to arcades by myself. But there's some people who watch the channel who are a little older who were. And I wonder what the feeling was as games progressed. Like, did it feel like you started out with, like, pretty basic 1D, 2D games, and then games started to, like this, start to push the boundary, not quite 3D, but it's getting there. And then, like, gradually, it's like it weans you into the 3D era. I remember for me, the game that weaned me out of the 2D and into the 3D was, of course, Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. In fact, I think I played Doom. I want to say I played Doom before I played Wolfenstein 3D. We played it at a friend's house, and they had a computer. They had a 386 in their kitchen, and I would come to his house after school, and we would eat snacks on the kitchen table that his mom would make, and then we would play Doom. Sometimes Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo, but mostly Doom on the computer that was like in his kitchen. And that's where I first learned that you don't just turn off a computer. I was so used to an NES where like as soon as you're done playing, you just hit the power button and it's off. It's like I remember we were playing Doom once and we like died. We're like, oh, I guess we're done for the day. I just turned his computer off. He's like, whoa, you don't do that. And I was like, huh? And it's like, this was in DOS days. Like nowadays you have to go to start and shut down on a Windows computer, but I think in DOS days it was generally good practice to boot to the DOS prompt before you turned it off, but there was no shutdown otherwise. But Doom, I was gonna say Doom 3D. Doom was like the first sort of 3D game that I ever played, and it's really 2.5D because you don't have to do a lot of up and down aiming. But I loved Doom, loved Wolfenstein 3D, and then Duke Nukem 3D came out, and I remember playing that, and I had a learning curve because my brain couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I had to aim up and down. And I didn't like it. I was like, it's too complicated. It's impossible. I remember on level 2. So the first level of Duke Nukem 3D, the Shareware Edition, you are, oh God, get that thing. That's like a double shot that we just got. The first level of Duke Nukem 3D, you're in, whatever, Los Angeles or whatever. You beat the level finally. At the beginning of the second level, there's a pig guy flying around in like a flying car on the street shooting at you. And I remember me and my friend, we got stuck at that level for like 2 days because we couldn't kill the pig guy. And we were so frustrated. We were so upset. It's funny because it's so trivial now. But like at the time, we were like, it's impossible. How are you supposed... We already have to aim left and right. How can we aim up and down at the same time? Like there's not enough buttons on the keyboard. You know, it's like we just didn't know how to do it. But now it's like that's a joke. It's so like that would be so trivial to do. And not only for adults, but like kids are just expected to know how to do it now, right? Like the bar has been raised. And I remember when that came out, eventually I learned how to play Duke 3D, and I did get used to it. I'm like, okay, it is actually pretty good. But I remember I was like, one game I hate though is Quake. I was like, Quake is inferior. Because first of all, you had to use the mouse to aim, which I still didn't really use a mouse for gaming, because I came from the DOS days, right? And like, unless it was like Command and Conquer where you need, or Dune 2 where you needed to actually control units, you didn't really use a mouse, you know? So the idea of using a mouse to aim seemed way too complicated for me. I was like, oh, it's much simpler with a keyboard. You can't play Quake that way, obviously. And I thought Quake was worse for 2 reasons. One, it required more up and down aiming, and I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. And the second reason that I was pretty sure Quake was inferior is the graphics sucked. Compared to Duke Nukem. Which you might be listening to that going, what are you talking about? Well, Quake was one of the first polygon games, right? So it's like, in some ways, Duke Nukem did look better than Quake because it had like beautiful, well done sprite art. And it had some naked babes, which, as a young teenage boy, I mean, does not help anything. Does not work against you, but that aside, I mean, like, I really just thought Duke Nukem had better graphics because the sprite art looked so good. But Quake obviously is a much more advanced engine. I mean, the fact that it was doing everything in polygons when it was, is like very impressive. But it's like I didn't understand that. And again, I will say, like, even to this day, even though I recognize Quake is a more advanced engine and it is more impressive as an engine, I still think, like, aesthetically, the sprites of Duke 3D do look, like, just better. So it's like, I don't disagree with my young self. But I do, obviously now is, like, polygons have gotten so much better and so much more complex and stuff. Like, clearly, like, the 3D stuff can get really good looking. So, I'm not, like, a 2D purist or anything. But at the time, just seemed like Duke 3D was a better game. Which is funny because then, Quake would go on to basically be the engine that powered Half-Life, which is like one of the best games of all time. Jesus. I can't tell sometimes when those enemy ships fly into me if they're going to kill me or fly through me. That part is screwing me up a bit. All right, let's play one more time. I've been rambling about other stuff. I'm not sure, like, I feel like I'm not sure what I have to say about this game specifically that I haven't said. I mean, you fly around in a circle, on the edge of a circle, shooting at these ships. Gotta shoot in the center, gotta kill as many as you can, and keep going to the next level. It's kind of the deal. And then when you get to the next level, then you're at the next level. I don't know what else there is to do or say. I mean, I guess the levels get harder. I wonder if there's a boss fight or something. I kind of just assume there's not, but I mean, I guess you never know. There could be. I don't know if any of the old Galaxia or Galaxians had boss fights. They had bonus levels. That was for sure. I feel like these old arcade games, every time I play them, though, they definitely do feel like they exist to kill you in about 30 seconds. Like if you're not dead in 30 seconds, the developer is not eating, like there's there's a certain quarter to death ratio they really got to hit. It's kind of, to get their annual Christmas bonus, those developers. I wonder what the mandates actually were in those, because I know it really was a thing of like, they did not want games where you could like play for hours at a time, because why would they, right? Like they want turnover in arcades. So it's like a lot of, I think nowadays when you play early arcade games, you do get the sense of, well, the gameplay is pretty basic. You die in about 30 seconds, unless you're like, a god. And that's kind of it, Trying to think of like what's the best early arcade game with like the most, the richest gameplay that I can think of. Like what's an example of an early arcade game where you can go like really far? See, this is a bonus level. That's why those guys were not killing me. Otherwise, I feel like they probably would have killed me, but I'm not 100% sure. They were kind of flying through me. As I say, it's hard to tell. Oh, like right there, that guy I bumped into him and he killed me. I lost my double shot. You dick. Oh my god, we got it again. This is our last life, folks. Can we make it work? I don't even know what we're trying to make work. We're just trying to get to... I mean, what's after Neptune? Venus? I have no idea. Uh-oh, there's a lot of them built up back there. That can't be good, right? What happens when too many of them build up back there, dude? Do they just, like... I guess they just come and attack me slowly? Kind of hold my own here, though. Yeah! Eat that. Dirtbags. Oh, God! Can't get these guys. Oh, my God. You got one. One more guy. Got him. There's a bit of like, I kind of feel how there's a little bit of modern shooting mechanic hidden in this. It's interesting how all shooters sort of evolve from a common ancestor, you know? Like asteroids, I guess, or space invaders. But it's like they get very different as time goes on. J. Oh, look, we've properly taken over the leaderboard, which I think means there's nothing left to do in the game. We've defeated it. I think as kids used to say in my school when we were kids, we say you cracked it. Well, this has been Gyruss, one of the games of the book, 1001 Video Games Just Play Before You Die. Interesting little twist on the Galaga Galaxian formula, I think, if I'm remembering those games correctly. If not, correct me in the comments as to which game I'm actually thinking of. Which is kind of a funny request, because, like, how are you supposed to know what I'm thinking of? Figure it out. Who am I? Can't do everything for you. Anyway, guys, what do you think of Gyruss here? Is a game you played back in the day? If so, share your arcade experiences and all your love for Gyruss in the comments down below. As always, guys, I hope you are enjoying the video and the series. Make sure to like the video and all that stuff. And I will be back with another video sometime soon. Again, I've slowed down a little compared to where I was like a year ago, but we're still going. It's still happening. Just, you know, time makes us all old and slow, I guess. I don't know what to say. Guys, I will see you soon. Until the next one, you take care of yourselves, and peace.